I'm not crazy, Malin. I'm not crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years. 40 years.
Sitting in a 4v3.
Everyone from esports trying to find what angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll. White gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Beast Mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Santi's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Sagafort is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick under Linky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Blue manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Start the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the 8? They get the 8.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for joining us here for another amazing week here of CGL here for Overwatch. And we had an exciting first week to get things going. And of course, we're continuing with our second week of action here in the regular season. And for some of these teams, they've gotten off to great beginnings. Some, not quite the case here. But of course, we're talking here today. And Geo, fabulous to be reunited after such a long period of time. And today, we're gonna have ourselves a banger on our hands. We got Zero Recall taking on EMC Mánagarmr. And I gotta say, the E region always finds ways to entertain me, not in the ways I expect anymore. It always seems to throw a curveball my way.
EU has probably maybe the most personality out of the regions. Obviously, I'm biased when I say it's the best region, but of course, we all know my bias. I have early bedtime, so I don't really get to cast the NE region. But yes, it feels so good to be casting side by side with you, Hunter, again. And this should be an interesting one because I started last week a little bit lower in the tiers, in the Diamond tier in EU. Now we're going climb our way up to GM, and we get to see what two of the teams in the albeit smaller GM tier get to do against each other.
Yeah, but it's really interesting as well when we have ones that are this small, because you'll have teams that will be able to face each other multiple times throughout the season, and that can kind of show how teams can grow in that aspect. So I'm sure it's going to be a good one. As for both of these squads, though, in their first outing, unfortunately, neither of them were able to pick up a win. So for these teams, it is a very important bounce back win, because with there being so little teams, that top 4 area is a little bit easier to reach, but there are going to be those teams that are going to miss out. So you need to have that margin of victory pretty early on here today. And with that being the case between these two teams, it's curious because when it's this early on, Gio, unfortunately, you don't have a lot to go off of in the situation like we normally would if we were in like week 5, 6, 7, 8. In this scenario, it's a little bit of the unknown as to how we think this will particularly go down.
Exactly, we're on the second page of the first chapter of this season of CGL. We do not yet know what arcs these characters will go on. But as you said, someone has to win, someone has to lose here, and with it being such a small pool, you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see a little bit more rivalries here. It might be a little bit more personal. When things are just that little bit more closer together, people get claustrophobic, and it's really time to outshine your opponents, because the more the weeks go on, the more information your opponents will have on you. So if you're not scouting them, if you're not coming up with ideas on how to face them and what heroes to ban, then you're going to fall behind. It's about how quickly these teams can learn about each other to create strategies against each other, and of course, if they can pick up the new hero Wu Yang, who's getting a lot of play.
Yeah, 100% gotten a lot of play so far. We've gotten to see it quite a bit here in CGL already, so it is obviously also a viable ban in the scenario. Is Zero Recall going to get us started in that department? And Gio, over the course of the last couple of months, throughout competition in general, with the bans being used, it feels like there are always those safe few bans that come through, and Orisa happens to be one of those. It's an oppressive tank. It can be used pretty solidly within the brawl. It can poke a fair amount as well. It's a solid thing to get rid of, and I think a really safe choice overall.
Yeah, it really kind of dictates where you want to go on the tank line there. You don't have that big bully with the ability to push you around, nor do you have the ability to, put up the nice big umbrella where you can hide behind the rain of damage. And a very different ban coming out from the other side. Genji is ousted, so we don't want the follow-up on dives, we don't want that burst damage, and Genji is very lethal with the new perk changes, because that dash cooldown being affected by melee, that can be dangerous in a very good Genji's hand.
No, I really can. We have seen Genji's been able to change the game over the course of, honestly, the entirety of Overwatch. Let's be entirely real. There have definitely been times where Genji has not been as effective, but the times, like right now, in the meta where Genji is really strong, it just takes one good sequence to change around a fight and make it yours. So getting rid of the Genji here at the beginning, hey, that could play into their hands quite a lot. But with the Orisa and the Genji gone, that plays into two different hands, because while the Orisa obviously is pretty formulated around the Brawl Rush style, Genji can be played with realistically anything. And when it comes to our first map and how things are going to get going there, I don't blame the scenario, because Genji is just that versatile of a hero.
Perusing the stats of these rosters, I'm looking at Zero Recall here, and I'm seeing someone who does like to play Wrecking Ball. Perhaps that's why that came out, but actually they're going with 2 Pack-a-Punch, who is down as a Sigma preference, so perhaps Sigma's coming out. Maybe that's why the Orisa was ousted. You have Mio, Chorio on the DPS lineup, Mei and Phantom on the back line there. This is a fairly tight-knit squad. They do have some extra substitutes that they can pull in from Bucky and Jigsaw Man, but overall a very tight roster here, and based off of the most played heroes, interested to see what kind of compositions trickle out of Zero Recall.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what the case is going to be here. And with the bans, as we go and talk about EMC Mánagarmr, it is a scenario we're looking at the lineup between Yoshi and Ozzy. Sometimes we would see Scars in this lineup. Scars, though, most played hero is Genji, so perhaps that goes into what's going on here. But of course, Arne on the tank, and then Octo and Blame over on support. So I think both these teams adjusting to the bans accordingly, realizing, hey, this is the style that we want to play. We think we can comfortably get away with running the game like this. And in a scenario like this, it is a situation where you go for the throat pretty early on with that Genji ban, and if it plays in your favor, you win that first map, you take momentum, it can take you right to the end 3-0 if you keep that momentum in your hand.
Momentum, it's a big tool in your arsenal, and getting that first map win, we often say, you know, first map jitters, things like that, but at the end of the day, getting that first point win is going to dictate the flow of how the next map goes, and it can very easily be a snowball, and teams need to show that grit that they're able to fight against that. Now, I am hoping we see Pharah. Pharah is a character that you see come out of some players' arsenal, and they will just devastate, because it's not a character you see often coming out, but they can supply so much burst damage, and following that up with something like a Tracer is deadly. So if they bring that out, especially with the new horizontal, well, I say new, that shows my age, horizontal movement of Pharah, then you can really easily follow up, especially on Samoa. But perhaps this would be a tricky one. You do see it done, especially when you swing around the outside and use a lot of that cover that's on the coast side of this sub-map, where if you're playing Brawl, of course, you want to play a bit tighter to those corridors. And yes, we are seeing Yoshi leaning towards the Pharah. They're probably going to want to play main then, so they can get good use of that range. Right now, Ozzy on the Cassidy is going to be able to like emphasize that. Meanwhile, Zero Recall playing, well, we'll see if this is what they come out on. If they do, this is a whole lot of tank kill, let me just say that.
Yeah, this is going to be extremely interesting going up the gate, but of course, Neo going to TP them out, likely both to go over to their respective Tracers. We'll see what the case is going to be. It's going to be a Tracer and a Sojourn for Mio in this scenario, so going to see how this works out. The Malga versus the Hazard, not a matchup we get to see very often, but to back up on, if they're able to get in there, disrupt everything, could be extremely effective. But that longer that Malga's in the fight, the less effective they're realistically going to be. And with all this damage being thrown in by Yoshi, it's eventually going to find its receipts, and without the tank, Zero Recall has got to pull back.
Yeah, when you go this way with the Pharah, you're really hoping that basically the enemy team just can't get through the choke. That's what happened. They got stuck on that choke, so much burst damage, and like you said, Pack-a-Punch was just there too long and did not survive that extended damage.
Yeah, you're gonna see gonna stay on the Malga in this scenario. They gotta play a little bit faster. The problem is that they don't have the ability to play super fast. You have the Ana break combo, which, to be fair, extremely strong in keeping the Malga up, but the problem is it doesn't necessarily facilitate the ability to play super aggressively. And as you see, once again, Pack-a-Punch forced to back her on that corner, has to play a little bit safe. Neo nearly getting taken out, as Blame of all people actually goes down first and foremost as they try to go aggressive here. Eventually seems to be working out. Ozzy does take care of Toro, but Mio cleaning house with 2 already, and now it's the stall game coming through Ozzy. Last one remaining as Mio picking themselves up 3. Phantom getting the last one. That's going to be 39% on the board as Zero Recall takes over.
Swinging round coast side to force point is basically getting the opponents of mana to get onto point, forcing the fight to be quicker and therefore more in the favor of their composition. You saw Yoshi need to contest and they got blown up by the Hellfire shotguns of the Reaper. They're going to still stay around this right side, but they've got plenty in their arsenal, especially this rush, to fight this next fight.
Oh, yeah, Nano Reaper in form right now. Yoshi right in the way, and now going to go for the Death Blossom. Basically a solo ultist. Everyone else is going to be forced to eventually take the L. Ozzy, though, does recall. Unfortunately, the team is still pulling around them. Ozzy, last one remaining, is just going to take the tactical reset. Bright side is, though, that's a 2-for-1 ult trade, and EMC is going to have the ability to sustain to this next fight.
Yeah, Chorio gave them the full cookie and cream special there with that nano shotgun just blasting to their face. Mana have plenty more to enter here, especially the Wu Yang ultimate who can keep someone alive and then stun, knock down enemies on zero recall. Neil needs to be playing nice and far back so they can get good overflow here.
While it's going to hit plenty of people, only one goes down with the Mei, and that's the back of Yoshi. Now Mio's going to clear out the house. Only one remaining. Yoshi gonna have to take another reset here, and 70% on the board. Again, a scenario where Zero Recall uses a lot more. They're just gonna have a cage fight going into this potential last fight.
That is true, but they'll need to be very smart about how they use it. They might not even get it in time for this barrage to come out. Of course, that cage could be very good at counteracting the barrage, so it's really on 2-pack to get this all up and running.
Ooh, and it's going to separate the team a little bit. Pulse Bomb comes out. Yoshi managing to get rid of one. I would say the most important one to get rid of. It should be Amanda's fight to win. I should say to lose in this scenario, as they're eventually going to take it away. As, I mean, right at the end of the day, you don't have to use that cage fight because you never got it in the first place.
That is true. I mean, when Mana throw free ults at you to win the fight, you're going to take that, especially when you've got 97% on the point. You don't need to overthink this one as you approach this point. Ooh,
Yep.
big.
Yep, big forces out the cleanse, and now there's no cleanse to save them away. Somebody's ultimately going to get caught, as Arne actually managed to get out. Goes and grabs the mega health back, so this is still going, but back a bunch given the nano. Trying to find another target to go for, trying to hunt down the enemy tank as Ozzy eventually going to recall directly into their face. It gets hit with an anti as well. And they're sustaining for as long as they can. Unfortunately, the team seems to be falling beneath it all as Point going to flip back over. 99% on the board. Flame's not going to make it back in time. Going to get stomped down as Zero Recall going to get the victory in hand. The ult didn't generate a lot, but one thing it did do is it separated all of Mana.
Ozzy's really struggling to get into that backline to contest Mio, who is often finding himself fairly free to hit these shots, build up that railgun on the hitbox of the Hazard, who even if they're blocking, is giving that railgun energy charge, and that can be used to knock a head or two off. And getting into that backline is very difficult when you've got two poke supports right there who can really easily poke and prod that recall out of a Tracer who doesn't have too much support, only that very small amount of healing from the orb given by the Wu Yang.
100%. Back out on that second round here. Heading to the beach for a little bit of fun here, and it might not be as much fun for Pack-a-Punch because Arne gonna come out over on the Diva. Definitely a good suppressing tool when it comes to that. But it stays interesting because Mei is gonna stay over on the Alari, which he's gonna obviously provide a lot more healing, but it's gonna be more of pocket healing than anything else. And Phantom could be a little more exposed for that reason, as Pack-a-Punch not in the best area, getting a lot of their heals taken away, trying to bounce back, positioning terribly low. Eventually bursted down, as Mana just gonna have to take a nice front row seat here to take the point, as they're gonna be starting off pretty strong.
Front row seat's a good way to describe the style that Mana have. You wouldn't usually see a Pharah walking into a small enclosed room against a Reaper, but that's happening, and it's working for them. They're just getting so many direct hits that they can follow up on, and that's what won them that first fight. Now, though, there's no Reaper, it's Chorio on the hunt.
Yeah, and the hunt has found select targets into Pack-a-Punch. Already gonna be taking this one back. I mean, 20-something% might be the big max here, as Arne's still hanging around, but it's just Ozzy and them hanging around, and eventually they're gonna have to die on the point, because if not, Arne could get pretty hard staggered here, as they're gonna go for the touch. Not going to get it, as now they need to try to get out alive, and if they don't, that could be a massive stagger.
They've just about scampered off with that mech intact. Phantom going over to the Brigida now to give a little bit more support in those oppressive Tracer Hazard dives. Just going to start being coordinated out there. Oh, okay, trading out on the sidelines there.
Yeah, rare interaction of DPS trading out like that. We'll see what that's going to bring to the table, as dropping down is going to be pretty unique. Going for the slam down, Mei not going to have that little bit of extra healing, and it's going to hurt Phantom in a lot of ways. It looks like Mana should be able to recover, get this fight, and take back the point, as Flame just tried to hide away. A lot of pressure still being given to Pack-a-Punch, though, being eliminated. He's going to take that away, as it's going to flip over just as quickly as they're going to come back. And, Gio, there's a ton of ults on the table this next fight.
Yeah, that trade worked out in the favor of Mana. It meant that Recall didn't want to use their ults a disadvantaged way. Mana didn't need to use theirs. It's going to be big, it's going to be messy. The sound barrier from the Lucio is going to be so important here.
Yeah, and they're going to move in. They're going to be able to get rid of Turtle once again early on. Yoshi this time, though, not having to trade out. Pulse Bomb manages to stick on after the death, so they're going to trade out at the end of the day. And that's going to cause Zero Recall to once again have to hold off, wait till they get their 5th back, because Ozzy should be able to get back relatively quick.
These are great rotations on the ults as well, because you still have this DPS ult of the Barrage, who has taken out the tank of Tupac already. Now they're hiding, perched like Batman, on the top rooftops of Gotham.
Yeah, Phantom would not see it coming, and they're going to go in, and unfortunately got found out. And now is just going to get pushed back. And unfortunately, a little too close for comfort as Mio is going to help clear things out. 2 to their name already. About to potentially make it a 3rd as Mana eventually going to have to take the reset. 89% on the board. Bright side is they hold on to a lot of their ults, but Zero Recall did the exact same.
Yeah, that's what Batman looks like when I played him in Arkham Knight. Yeah, not so great, but yeah, still got those ults, especially from Recall, though. They're literally everything, but Mio gets caught out again.
That is potentially worst case scenario. Beat goes through. Arnie, though, still ends up having to take the reset on the bomb. They're giving everything to try to win this right here, and now Downpour activated. And unfortunately, it's going to find almost no receipts. Octo does end up going down, but is one of those targets that can get back a little bit quicker. As Point going to flip over, and unfortunately, Tobacco Punch not able to escape. And at this stage of the game, Mio might have to be a last resort touch, but can they even make it?
I don't think so. 4%. It's gonna be a bit
trying.
flying towards it like the sun. Oh, Night came for them in the end. Yeah, unable to touch. Mio getting caught out there just goes to show how devastating a pick like that. They got caught on that door side when they tried to slide, and it meant that their escape whittled away before their very eyes.
Yep, now it's going to come down to a 3rd and final round. Gonna see if either team is willing to change around their style. To the moment, it seems like not, and I like that Arnie made this adjustment to go over to the Diva because it makes the Malga so difficult to do anything with it. So the Hazard, I think, is a really good adjustment. Unfortunately, it's changed around their style a little bit, and if Meme comes out on the Baptiste, this is going to be extremely interesting, and I don't know if I feel that great about it out the gate.
Yeah, especially with Yoshi being able to use so much of this map to use angles and corners. We know they like to play up and close and personal, but they'll also have that central clock tower to be able to play around once the point gets capped, and it's going to be very difficult to follow up on them once they get into that good position.
Yep, look for the assassination. Yoshi gets sliced, but not diced. Gonna hold on to the life for the time being. Gonna join up with the rest of the squad. Try to bring some pressure as Tobacco Punch just taking a lot. Eventually gonna have to shield off in multiple ways to be able to get away. As Mana holding onto the point very securely, as someone eventually is going to have to make some kind of play, as Arnie hoping to find somebody caught out, but unfortunately not, as Point close to flipping over, but now pressure being delivered as you have both these teams trying to hang on. Ozzy tries to go for the desperation kill. It doesn't happen. Zero Recall should be able to start taking over from here with Arnie being knocked out of the mech.
Is there any Tracer to try and interrupt a backline that consists of Cassidy, Baptiste, and Brigida? That's just not going to be fun for you. Maybe Deep actually gets a trade onto Chorio there as they just stall out the point, but very long fight. You know what that means, high ult percentage here, and it is on the side of Recall to have the advantage. They're going to have this pulse bomb up nice and quickly here. The Wu Yang, Blamey, does have their ultimate coming up. That extra health is going to be very helpful, especially if you want Yoshi to go aggressive. Give them the overhealth, they can go aggressive and then stun people as they go forward.
Yep. Churro gonna have the first ults of this coming fight right now. A lot going to come online specifically though for Zero Recall more than anybody else right now. Blame their own right on that corner, and we're gonna see who's going to be more aggressive right out the gate as Yoshi hanging from above, having to get out of this pulse bombs thrown out. Mei gonna have to use their abilities to try to hold on as we see ult being thrown in every which direction. Nice boom to take Neo out of effective range. Still gets Octo anyway. And Mana is gonna fall once again in this fight. Arnie can be taken out of the mech. Mercifully gonna be killed quickly, but unfortunately, no receipts there as Mio is cleaning up house.
Oh me, oh my, we have a very, very good player here. A little bit of information about Mio. They have 8 accounts in GM. They play this game a lot, and you can tell by their very crisp mechanics. That's a player you cannot let have free space. Otherwise, well, that will happen.
Yeah, this one beginning to potentially not look close, but there's a lot of ultimates on the board, but Mana is gonna have to hold on a little bit longer if they want to have more to invest here. Yoshi gets stunned out, downpour thrown down, is gonna catch on to multiple members. Akto doesn't have the B, Yoshi's going to invest, and they're gonna find 2 out of that exchange, and it's just 2 to back a punch. And Mei trying to hold on as Yoshi gets another. Just need to finish them off as 85% gonna be on the board, and Mei gonna die a little late here.
Yeah, very, very crucial positioning on the barrage right around the corner where you couldn't quite shoot Yoshi. They were protected with that barrage. It meant that they kind of made up for the fact that Octo was out of that fight very quick with that downpour. Now they're in a very safe space with that sound barrier there and the bomb. They're going to be very survivable in the next couple fights.
Yep, 100%, 25% already on the board. Arnie's already knocked out of mech, and at this point, I think if you're Mana, you need to get out of here right now. This fight is already over with. Ozzy is going to get rid of 1 here, but Ozzy has to either die on the point or get out of here. They can try to hold on. Actually, you know, Ozzy, maybe I misjudged you. Maybe I don't understand. Maybe you are simply them, and have already gotten rid of 2, which means this is not over yet. Joe does have the full storm ready to go. Ozzy going to be given free recall directly into it. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I am fine being wrong here. There's been an investment, and Ozzy almost single-handedly pulls it back. And I will apologize right here on stream. I did not understand.
Yeah, I know another Aussie was known for biting the head off a pigeon, but this Aussie definitely pulled a rabbit out of the hat. That was incredible there, especially since Arnie Barney went down very early and did not invest their bomb to remake. Now it's actually worked out in their favor off the back of their DPS, but Mio will be looking for this high noon. They'll be looking for this left side flank or right side to set it up.
100% see what the case is going to be. Charldo is going to hit the pulse bomb brilliantly, hoping to find something here as trades going back and forth. Octo luckily is bobbing and weaving like crazy, leaving Mio with her ankles broken as Octo goes in aggressive as all hell, but unfortunately it's not going to find anything as 90% soon going to be on the board. A touch is going to have to be set up, but unfortunately Ozzy is back at the spawn room, so Arne is going to have to stay alive long enough to set up retouch because unfortunately Octo isn't hanging around for long.
Rat is coming up here by Yoshi. This is something that if they get back, they can definitely devastate with.
Yeah, they get rid of quite a bit. Nobody goes down in the exchange, but forces out a lot of cooldowns. Unfortunately, pulse bomb has to be huge. It finds nothing. Recall no longer available. It's going to come down to that final fight, but it's going to be 0 recall that has all the necessary tools to pull it back. So they will take our first round. But Gio, if this is a glimpse into how this series is going to go down, we should have a close one on our hands.
Oh, absolutely. These teams left nothing back, and I don't imagine much is going to change as we go on in this series. And there's some standouts here from both sides, but my god, Mio was looking so good on both the Sojourn and this Cassidy play here specifically. Just sitting here free shooting, free as a bird, and nothing to stop them. Now, I like the Hazard play. Hazard obviously a little bit nerfed in the way that the armor bug was patched, but still a very strong character. Just goes to show, especially because once you get up in their face, you block, you're dealing a little bit of damage, a little bit of lifesteal and damage reduction. Creates so much space for characters like Tracer to get work done. Then if you're over appealing or if you're over going for the backline, where's Mio on the flank? And they're shooting your head.
Yeah, 100%. I like the response of the D.Va initially. I still think D.Va ended up being the right call throughout that. I think they were doing a lot in that situation. But it felt as though Tobacco Punch had a way of surviving almost every single fight. And in credit to that backline for being able to survive as long as they did, is Ozzy made their lives as miserable as humanly possible throughout that whole exchange. Unfortunately, just wasn't enough to pull it back at the end of the day. But now you have your chance to bounce back right here if you are EMC Mana. So they'll be able to choose where we are going to be headed next. We'll find that out pretty soon. But in a scenario like this, where you go pretty neck and neck running this style, do you attempt to kind of continue what you have been doing and, you know, go down the route of things have been, whether it's pretty 50-50, Or is this where you decide to change it up pretty early on and see if, hey, we think maybe this is going to play into our hands a lot better?
I think for Zero Recall, you're probably, sorry, for Mana, you're probably going to want to play more into your style. You've got the map pick and the mode pick. This is so much power in your hands right now that to kind of like adapt too much might be a bit of a tactical error. You've got the control of where we're going. You can pick a map type and a mode that suits you. It's just a little bit fixes here and there could mean that, you know, you get a bit of a better engage, etc. There's a couple times where they were forced into positions like where we saw the Wu Yang all had to be used on the Wu Yang rather than what it looked like what they were going for, which was using it on the Tracer or on the Pharah so that they could go nice and aggressive and of course get that blast and knock them down. If they can get that combo up and running a little bit better, their alt rotations will look a lot cleaner.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, taking those first bans into account, Scars, who is pretty much known to be a Genji player on this team, that's going to be available from here on out for the rest of the series. So we could see some change up there. Could see change up on the other side of things with things of Zero Recall, with the fact that Ball's back to being available. But I think you feel pretty good about that first round and how things went down. So now it's the question again for EMC Mana as to where you want to take us, because it's pretty wide open. You could take us to any mode, any map that's within the pool. And to be fair, it's a pretty reasonably sized pool, so there's a lot of different choices. So if there's something you want to run, I guarantee you there is a map for that comp.
Absolutely, and both teams have some substitutes available to them on the sheets. You've got 3 subs on Mana, you've got 2 subs on Recall. Whether we will see these subs used or not is another question, but you've got some interesting hero picks in there, like a Wrecking Ball player called Bucky, and you have on the other side other supports available. Actually, someone from the USA, and any import, Starwolf. She's on the roster of Mana. We could see them come in. Maybe some NA luck could help this EU team in their time of need.
We'll see if that will be the case or not. But all things considered, I'm excited to see what will go down, because we know where we're going to be going for our next map. Of course, the selection of EMC Mana, as they're going to be going over to Flashpoint specifically. It's going to be Suravasa. And like I was talking about before we went live, Gio, it feels like Flashpoint and Push have been some of the more picked modes for a lot of teams when it comes to these map 2, map 3 situations, because I think teams have just had to practice so much to where they've gotten, I think, more comfortable on it. And perhaps it's just the fact that we run this so many times, it's like we know exactly what we're doing here.
I think it became kind of clear a while back when the kind of the map picks came out, that there's a kind of an interesting curve where the higher the rank is, the more they prefer maps like Flashpoint, Control, Push, things that go a bit faster with their maps. There's a little bit more decision making where to position, and obviously more skilled players, they like that. They like that freedom. They can kind of theory craft and strategize to alter their plans, whereas like the lower ranks, they prefer what you might call cart slop, where there's, you know, a bit of a tube and you have to go through the tube, and there's maybe a couple angles, a couple flanks, but there's a little bit less freedom. And obviously we're talking about a league here. We're talking about teams that have decided to not just play on the ladder, but come together every now and again for a scrim or two and to play in CGL. So they are going to be liking the more competitive map types like the Rattle.
I agree entirely on that one, and we'll see how it's going to go down in the ban department. It's going to be the Baptiste being taken out early on, and I like this decision. If you're talking about a brawl style, it seemed like they were leaning a bit more toward that Baptiste near the end, so I don't blame them, because even in the heyday of 2025 of Overwatch 2, Baptiste Lucio still has a place in the meta, and for a lot of teams, it's a very comfortable backline.
Yeah, even though the cries of Baptiste is OP from the Overwatch 1 days got drowned out by Kerry is OP in the Overwatch 2 days, that's still a very strong character. A lot of damage output and healing output, more importantly. And that perk where they auto heal as well when they use an ability is so strong. It allows a good Baptiste player to get so much damage out. That's a great targeted ban. Zero Recall are going to have to respond in kind here with their own choice.
Yeah, and obviously we saw a ban earlier on the damage run, but no, gonna get rid of the Diva, which obviously was a big crux of their Malga, so that screams to me that Zero Recall is going to want to try to get rid of that Diva specifically because they want to run the Malga, which means now you have to respond accordingly because now that you don't have the Diva to respond to it, because that was their response, was the Diva. Now you got to figure out something else here, and it's, do you try to run your own Malga instead? Do you try to bring back out the Hazard that can block in a bunch of that damage? Or do you try to go down the route of, hey, let's run our own Brawl with like a Riso, like a Queen? There are a lot of options, there are a lot of answers, but Malga is one of those things where if you go in blindly and you don't have a plan, you're gonna get run down.
I love to see teams bring out Junker Queen on Zervasa. I think it's a great pick, especially if they lean Brawl. It's harder to do than a Rematch or a Hazard because the character's whole premise isn't just to press block. There's a bit more to it, but it does mean a bit of a higher octane follow-up, especially now that Genji is not banned. That Genji can be played with the Junker Queen. Such a good pick to follow up on damage done, especially if someone's pulled out of position. Follow up with a Genji, burst them down. It's a great composition. Obviously, Ramatra still someone who could play a little bit less so now in terms of meta-wise. I think probably I'm thinking Junker Queen or Hazard would be the good choices here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have a little bit of Junker Queen in my life. Love playing. I love seeing the character get played, and it doesn't get played a ton. It makes me a little sad, but when it does come out, it makes me very happy. And substitutes are coming into play as Jigsaw Man is coming in for support in this situation. So perhaps coming in specifically to play that Lucio. Maybe this screams like, hey, we want to run like a carry Lucio or something in that regard. Maybe even like the Brig and the Juno potentially that has still been used to some extent, but. On the other side of things, we are not going to see any swaps as we're going to get into Saravasa. And we seem to predict what is going to happen here, Gio. And I'm curious how correct we're going to be because I felt pretty good about the first one. So how about the second one? I couldn't have been more
okay.
wrong.
Yeah,
GG,
that is, yeah, pack it up. Just straight up pack it up. I mean, okay, right. I didn't quite see Monkey coming out. They're still in the spawn and it's a pause. So like, hey, we could double down here and say they're going to swap to what we said they would. It could still happen.
Yeah, to be fair, if the Monkey or R9 specifically goes over to Junker Queen, I saw like what that was like Genji, Soj, Kiri, Lucio. That is like the optimal comp for a Junker Queen. Maybe you could sub in like a Tracer in there, but I think the Soldier works brilliantly with it. And I didn't fully remember what was on the other side of things, but it wouldn't surprise me if it was the Malga. But maybe you're trying to have 20/20 vision to be like, oh, we know you're gonna play for our Malga, so we're gonna play for your counter comp. Something like that.
I think I saw the Orisa rear its ugly head, and that makes sense, right? Orisa no longer banned, also playable. Yes, Genji's there, but the big bad Omnic is here to javelin spin your face and interrupt your monkey dives with a big javelin mid-air. I do not think they'll be playing Winston because it seems like they know Orisa's on the board, and that would be a very peculiar choice, to say the least, to bring a monkey against Orisa. It's just like, yeah, let's throw this monkey against a wall and see how they fare up against a bunch of bricks.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously in that scenario, sometimes you just say, hey, we just gotta ignore the tank, go for the back line. But it's not that simple with an Orisa. I mean, you can get speared out of your dive, you can get pushed away. There's a lot that can happen in a scenario like that. But Tobacco Punch is currently hanging around still on the monkey. I think still genuinely wouldn't be the worst pick, because if you play fast and you're effective with it, it could work out. But we'll see momentarily whether or not there's going to be a swap. And with where they're sitting, I think they're going out on this monkey. I think they're going to go for it.
This is going to be so difficult because, like, you're going to have to play so safe as monkey because you have to dive for space here. Like, who are you going to dive? Wu Yang? They're gone. The carry? They're gone. You have to force TP. You have to force these movement abilities first before you can even get a dive in, and you're up against so much spam damage. This is going to have to be a Herculean effort to get Winston some value here.
And the biggest issue is, I think, overall, isn't necessarily the comp, it's what you're going into. Because the Risa obviously is tough to go into, but there's not like a super definitive target as Churro's gonna just, you know, take care of business right out the rip here, going to get rid of Ozzy, and it looks like it's going to be going their way, so the Winston comp for now going their way, but it's going to come down to the DPS because you can dive and dive and dive, but in this entire comp, there's not a super optimal target because everybody can get away with danger with some kind of ability.
Back a lot though during that map. This game called Overwatch started updating out of nowhere. Crazy. But yeah, okay, well, this is a great position to be in, especially if you get an early pick onto a Tracer and force them to rethink, because if you're in the defender's seat, so much easier to get this monkey into place.
Yeah, 100%. With that, you Tracer, you just gotta wait for your reset, and with 50% on the board, you can already consider this final fight territory, honest to God, because you can't just go in super fast. You have to take your time, get set up, get ready to go, because ultimates aren't nearly a factor yet. I guess May is pretty close. Churro is right around the corner due to a lot of those early picks that have come through, but they are getting targeted pretty hard. He's going to have to back down. Unfortunately, Yoshi decides, no, we're not playing that game. We're taking care of you right here and now as they're going to go on the aggression. Ult's still not a factor, though, so they have to win this fight without them. And that point's going to flip over for I don't want to say for free, but Pack-a-Punch is going to get one on the way out.
Yeah, without your Wu Yang, now things get a lot more dangerous. Mimi goes down, that's a great trade, because that's the core healing gone. It's all about just getting trades if you want to stay in this one with zero recall.
Yeah, Mio, so hanging around the backline is going to have a little bit of company shortly, I imagine, through Ozzy, as Mio is waiting for it, has a blade ready to go. Defense mechanisms are not fully in place for it, though. You have a Kitsune rush, and Blame obviously has their kites ready to go, but it's going to be who's going to be able to pull that trigger first and foremost. And Mio is waiting for the opportunity as the Kitsune rush comes out from Octo. First and foremost, and you're going to be going and looking for that rush. You're going to be cutting and dicing through, but going to be stunned away as 65% on the board. You need a fast reset if you are zero recall with Pack-a-Punch dying here. A retouch is possible, but it's not going to be clean.
It's gonna be slim. You don't quite have Primal. You can definitely play for it. Choreo would need to do some amazing stuff here with the overclock, but the Winston will not be there in position, and without the Lucio touch, they're just gonna give up there.
Yep,
Actually, no, yeah, I didn't even see the Genji going for it.
Oh! And, weird trade-out right there as you're going to eventually push back. It's a 3v3 scenario. Point's going to flip back over. So Pack-a-Punch is using the Primal Rage, and Mio has to hang around. They're trying to chase down the Wuyong. Unfortunately, the Wuyong is way far away. As there's the throw bodies back on the point, it's going to force Mio to jump back on. And Pack-a-Punch is so far away where it doesn't really matter a ton. You're going to have to try to touch one more time. Unfortunately, everybody's too far. They're going to get spun out. They get one more touch, but it's not going to matter. EMC Mánagarmr gonna take that first fight away. Definitely close, but Zero Recall has a lot to work with for the next engagement.
You can't downplay Tupac there, who brilliantly placed the bubble to have Yoshi just blow themselves up right against that barrier with their own barrage. And in this next fight to secure this point, the ults are on the side of Total Recall. They have this overclock entering the high ground, but Orisa's stalking it like a hound.
Yeah, that was you walking into the wrong house, and the dog was just raiding right at the door. As Ozzy going to go for a pulse bomb stick. It's going to attack, but B is being thrown as well as a cleanse. Double authorization online, as you're going to see Ishiro hoping to find something right here. No one really in sight, though. Just has to kind of hammer away at the tank, force them to back out. Ozzy, though, eventually done in by Jigsaw, as it looks like EMC Mánagarmr is eventually going to fall over. Zero Recall going to be taking this one over. Didn't invest quite a bit to take that one away, as EMC Mánagarmr going to reset as Blame is going to get staggered pretty hard here.
Yeah, that's a rough stagger. They're just gonna have to jump off the map. Choreo's overclock there was kind of like that moment where you're eating Oreos with milk and you reach over to the Oreos, but there's no more Oreos. So you're just kind of like sat there with milk. But they won the fight nonetheless. They just had to invest a little bit more on the ultimate side. They're going to be up against a Kitsune rush next, which without those support ultimates from Recall, it's going to be about just using that speed boost to get away from it.
Yeah, 100%. Right now, Octo has that Kitsune rush ready to go, so definitely playing into their hands here as Mio on that Freya does have a bubble shot available already. Without it's still gonna beat on the other side. There is a lot to work with right here, but you're gonna see a stick. Blame gonna try to find somebody. They're gonna move in. It's going to cause a little bit of damage, getting super low. the Churro is going to get a little bit of Kara's point to flip over at 81%. And bright side, they saved their Kitsune Rush and that barrage is online.
That's a brilliant fight. Best case scenario for Mana there. They get some late picks as well. And this is brilliant because 81% for zero recall, yes, it means if they win a fight, get the point, that's pretty much equalized. But there's so much ults to rotate here for Mana. If Yoshi can set up nicely here as recall push in, they can catch at least one person out of the barrage, that would be enough.
Yep, and now they're trying to throw everything into that tank. They're going with that Kitsune Rush now as Mio still has a bull shot available and sends it out, but it is no longer there as Tobacco Punch going to go in there. Yeah, yep, that's basically what that is right there. Tobacco Punch, though, got to get out with their life intact. It's one final fight to decide this point as Tobacco Punch, I think, maybe has to keep running.
We cut to the moon real quick to see where that bolo would have landed anyway. That went into the skies, 85% here, and you still have Barrage. Yeah, zero recall. They just need to take the loss on this one. You see Winston on the side, they do want to jump into it. Maybe they can get some ultimates out. They do, but I mean, it wasn't even needed. The Javelin did the job already.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't blame the precaution to be safe, because if that touch does come through, you got the Kitsune Rush ready. Maybe Tupac is able to just live in that scenario and able to go back with their own Primal Rage, so I don't blame it. You know, you'd rather be safe than sorry.
And now Arnie's going to be looking for this Terra Surge. Up against the Kitsune Rush, though, it's going to basically have to be very well placed to just disrupt. If you can force at least a Suzu with it, it does mean your DPS can follow up with the damage, especially when the characters are close together. Those rockets will do more damage.
Yeah, and Tobacco Punch is dead again and not able to get the ult out, which means Jigsaw Man is not able to do anything, as that beat did really squat, unfortunately, as they have to go and take a reset, as the EMC Mana is going to just play back and take their focus. They're actually going to move up, and wrong place, wrong time right there, Churro, as they're barely going to be able to escape, sitting at 1, but they'll stay alive.
My god, the skin of their teeth. Somehow, Tobacco Punch is in the back there, takes out Yoshi, and there goes Octo, and now things are just falling apart. Wu Yang ult did not get used. They tried to use it on themselves, but it got taken out. So I believe that's another an Ajax. I don't know what you would call a Wu Yang Ajax, though. And now Zero Recall, very strong position here. They still have this Kitsune Rush now in a defensive manner. However, Arnie's been holding on to Terra Surge like the next coming of Overwatch is upon us, so they still have that to stay alive once that rush comes up, and they can match it with the rope.
And that's a very nice boop, as eventually Arnie is going to be thrown everything in the kitchen sink. Has to use the Terra Surge just to stay alive, and is going to have to let it loose, and is eventually Churro can be backed out, is perhaps in the thick of it a little too much. Is everyone going to move forward? Both of the DPS from Zero Recall being taken care of. Stick comes through, but Tobacco Punch does not go down as a result, but eventually it's going to have a cause and effect, as EMC Mana going to take over the point at a crisp 69%.
Got pinned up like some wet laundry there, right? I mean, they just got caught out in that position. I mean, to be fair, it looked like you could hypothetically kill the Orisa, but that's so much health plus the Kitsune Rush healing as well from Octo, just being able to keep them up. There's really not much Zero Recall can do here. They're really hoping for a pick from their DPS.
Yep, Tobacco Punch have to go on the point, and a solo barrage is the correct answer. It's Mio finding the Deadeye. Couldn't get rid of 2, so this is not done and over with yet. Arnie sitting super low on health. It's got to be the biggest clutch we've seen so far by Mio. Yoshi is literally sitting at 1 health. He's managed to get rid of another. Unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. Tobacco Punch is going to try to make it back, but is nowhere even close. And ladies and gentlemen, if you wanted a bounce back, you sure as heck found one. It's EMC Mana gonna tie things up.
I think it just goes to show that if you pack a punch a wall gun, it's still a wall gun. I think Tupac just made that more difficult for themselves than it needed to be. Playing a character in such a compositional mismatch just meant that in so many scenarios that bubble was coming up so defensively that they couldn't be as aggressive as you want to be with it. Cut off the healing, it didn't happen enough. I don't blame them. It's a lot of damage to the face of a scientist, and that just looked rough. I think they would have benefited more from pretty much any other tank, and I feel bad saying that, but honestly, any other tank would have been better in that situation.
Yeah, I'm excited that the Winston ended up working as well as it did at times, but it was definitely a scenario where it's like, you know, I love my Winston. Clearly, love him to death. Not always the best option, though. I like the way both teams tried to play it, though, because I think it really fell into their styles. I think they took advantage of what was banned and made the best out of the situation. So now, it's going to be Zero Recall's attempt to bounce back in this scenario, but before that does come into play, we're going to take a quick little break to set up for map 3, see what these teams want to do. So when we come back, we'll have a continuation of this amazing series here on CGL.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once more to CGL here for some more EU action. And so far, it has been a back and forth affair here in the GM division. Two teams that are hoping to bounce back from their first matchup here of the season, hoping to get a W under their belts. And Geo, it seems like both teams primed to try to make it happen. Zero Recall starting out strong, but EMC Mana able to bounce back, make Sarah boss of their own. Now it's Zero Recall that's the one that has to respond and figure out what the answer is.
Yeah, both these teams very close in skill. Very good teams respectively. So this one's not going to be a situation where one team just like sits down and takes it. I feel like this is going to be back and forth until the end. This could definitely go the distance. All these players have obviously the skill, much more skill than me, that's for sure. But you know, now it's the situation of, okay, now Zero Recall, it's their position to choose the mode, choose the map we go to, and figure out exactly what we want to do. And again, I always prefer to see teams lean into specifically what works for them, but in this situation it could be a good option to kind of pick something that could trip up the opposing side there, as things are getting nice and close.
Yeah, 100%. Still quite a bit of selections as well between Escort, Hybrid, and Push. Also available. Push is that one that, again, I have seen quite a fair bit. It seems like for a lot of teams, I've seen them avoid Hybrid a lot of the time. Oddly enough, I think maybe teams just a bit tired of, you know, doing all the Hybrid maps. We've been there. We've been there as casters. We've been there as players. But it's going to be Escort and more specifically Circuit Royale, which the thing I consider Circuit Royale more than any other map is a tempo reset. Circuit Royale plays so differently from any other map, but at the same time, there's still a lot of things that can work here.
Yeah, you've got a big list of things that can work here, but also with it often being very poke orientated, this is going to be great for people, particularly Neil, who I think so far has been the most mechanically well-rounded player on the entire board, and this is going to be a map that can very easily turn into their playground because their team is giving them so much space to work with, and it's really worked out well. There's a substitution there, as Phantom is getting subbed. And still with the rest of the team, there are no changes. And you see Mio's character portrait being on Widow right now. Might that be tempting to go with?
I mean, there's no reason not to start out with that for at least a couple of shots. We'll see all the time when Freya is still very popular, but was like at the peak a little while ago in Circuit Royale, you would see every single attack Widowmaker. They would come out, they would look in that top right area and hope and pray that Freya would peek their head, and to be fair, they often did. But now Zero Recall has the first ban back in their hands. They have really hated the tank line, apparently, and there's a good chance it might stay that way, but we could tell they are banning out a DPS, and by the looks of the marker there, it looks like it's going to be that Tracer.
It makes sense. Target the Tracer. Aussie has been doing very well. Has a very strong performance on Servasa on the Tracer, so just taking that off the board, it means you can lean to what we've seen more of, which is the kind of Genji choice. Yari going to get banned out again, a very poke-orientated character there off the board. Lots of places where you can place a turret on this map to set up, and we have already seen Yari be played on a map that you wouldn't particularly see Yari getting much play from anyway. So yeah, great bans from both sides, and the Tracer ban, quite spicy, I would say.
I think those are pretty both selective bans. Obviously, the Tracer ban really falls onto Ozzy. I think with Phantom being back in, I think the Illari ban pretty much goes towards them in this scenario, because now you don't have the Illari, you don't have the Lucio player in. So now the question is what you're going to rely on. And for some teams, they can fall back on the Baptiste, because after being taken out last map, once again, is available back into the pool to play once again. And it's been the ever-reliable tool for a lot of people since Baptiste existed when it comes to poke. And I don't think it's ever a wrong choice. Same thing with like a Zenyatta. It might not be the character you see all the time, but it still has plenty of effectiveness. And I think we'll see what both teams want to do, as unfortunately, the Duck, ladies and gentlemen, is not a selectable character.
What? Since when?
Yeah. I don't know, man.
That game. Rivals better.
Wow, that's crazy.
No, do not quote that, because that is not my opinion.
Clip it.
Oh, wait, hold on. I just realized that this is a clippable thing. I'm speaking live. So, on defense, I'm completely unshocked. Tupac has been wanting the hover of the Sigma for ages. This is a map where, despite the fact we have seen a trend of Sigma being picked less on this particular map, it is still in his wheelhouse. Very strong character to pick here. If you can flash your shields enough, keep that shield up and ready, you can. Fork Fountain Kitchen. Hold on a minute. Does that mean the producers agree with what I said? Wait, there's a conspiracy brewing.
There is a lot brewing, especially as Mio goes for the jump shot. Nothing brewing there, though, as it looks like Yoshi is back over on the far, which, you know, Mio could potentially find as a hunting ground, but Yoshi already knows better. At this point, they have seen what the enemy has on the leaderboard, so for the time being, Mio just hoping to find the pot shot, but you see Yoshi is literally just not even giving the opportunity, not even taking the peek. Someone is going to have to eventually move forward and start progressing that cart.
I love Wu Yang here. It's so much damage from those orbs, and of course they don't lose damage with range, so you can just pump out so much damage, and Opto has been landing those shots already. Tupac just need to be a little bit careful as they get to half health.
Yeah, and again, cart slowly but surely inching forward. Yoshi is literally having to play behind, like we're at the beaches of Normandy, trying to storm forward, moving on. But Yoshi's still hanging alive as Arnie getting low once again, having to back out a little bit further. But that cart, again, still is making solid progress.
That's what it's all about. But now you get to this corner. It's all about controlling that statue, forcing Neo back to this back position so they have a little bit less room. But Yoshi poking their head around that corner for that little bit of poke damage, it's going to be a lot more dangerous when Mio has the sniper sights on their head.
Yeah, but Blame has ult ready to go first and foremost. Going to be clearing out a ton of space, so they're going to take the position of that next corner. Unfortunately, Ozzy's down. Can't take as much advantage of it. Yoshi is burning away, trying to go for the mega health back. Arnie trying to protect them as Neo not able to find the killing blow. As Arnie basically gives her life to kill the Ana. Unfortunately, I don't think that's enough to turn this one around, as they're going to have to back up. And ults galore is online for Zero Recall as Yoshi, again, taking one on the way out. That feels like that's just going to stall the next fight out a little further.
Definitely, and you see Tupac still kind of poking out, just seeing if there's any opportunities to follow up on it. And well, Mio there, having Mio in that position on the statue is going to be the key to like them finding these sneaky picks, and it's all about like how you avoid that, right? Yoshi has to play so defensively now, which is kind of counter to how they have been playing the whole game. Oh my god, that was close.
Yeah, anyway, but that was an excellent move. Forced a bit of panic, and now back a bunch trying to go for it. Nano is expended. The Flux was expended. Everything is being expended, and Churro has got a 3K to the net already up with 4K, and they're gonna get the ace. Holy hell, Churro! We see you loud and clear.
Definitely didn't run out of the Oreos that time. That is outstanding, and it just goes to show, I've been begging up Neo this whole time, but Jorio's right there, and they just proved themselves to be just a steady warrior on mouse and keyboard. Now though, Yoshi has to be thinking, how am I going to get this barrage? How do I close the distance enough to get at least a trade out with the barrage? Because getting around this corner against these two heavy hit scans is no easy task.
Yeah, and now ult economy still falls in Mana's hands. The problem is Zero Recall have tool necessary, specifically having that Baptista ready to go. Meme has been very consistent throughout the series already, as everyone has to just wait, and this is going to be Final Fight territory now. 30 seconds on the clock, as Mio, honestly, I think has to be target number one here, because as long as they are there, Yoshi can't play at full effectiveness.
20 seconds remaining, so the touch comes in. Going out, it's just going to get that extra health so they can get into position.
Yeah, and trades are coming through. Neo hoping to find a second headshot. Is eventually going to be pushed back beyond the line. Arnie has found a second. Without a third, is now trying to get an ace of their own. Octo takes that away from them, but it doesn't matter. It's all a team game at the end of the day, as they're going to be able to take away this first point. It takes overtime to do it, but the bright side is they held on to almost everything, and they are set up pretty beautifully well for the next series of fights.
Yeah, absolutely well played by Arnie there. They controlled that map so well with the Wu Yang ult being used early. Just gave them the overhealth to be able to push forward and potentially get that knocked out. Swing around to take Neo out. So well played by them. It's why they're in this second stage now with all of these ultimates.
Ooh. Churro nearly losing his head, but able to stick around, stay alive, and nearly get speared out of their pants, but again, stays alive. And now ult's big factor here for EMC Mana, trying to hold out and see what you want to use first. And honestly, I think you want to use that Matrix pretty early on here, as you will be able to clear out a lot more space, and that is exactly what the form is going to be. Pack-a-Punch is going to have to try to back out of there. Has a ton of healing from that, by the way. as Mio getting focused into the corner, eventually going to try to pull out of there, trying to get out alive as, again, the Pokemon just trying to go forward is, I don't know why they let it go so early, is that's going to go through, catch on to multiple members, and Churro, again, gonna clear house. And I think Arnie holding on, or not holding on to that Terror Surge is a big mistake, unfortunately.
Yeah, obviously in the way of the point, trying to get in between it, and for that extra health as well, because they had used the Javelin Spin already, but they do have both DPS ults here, to be fair, especially Ozzy on the Overclock. They do have to just wait out this walls. It happened a bit early, but I think this is intentional by Mio, just to let themselves position a little bit far forward, and of course, bring the timer down to under 1 minute. Zero recall in a very strong position, especially if Mimi getting close to that window.
100%. See what the case is going to be here. 40% on the, or 40%, Shizui. 40 seconds on the board. And now, with the way this is going, this could be Final Fight territory. I think right now you're waiting for Octo to get their tidal wave online, but instead it's going to be Ozzy going aggressive, hoping to find at least one target out there. Mio hoping to click somebody's head, but unfortunately got to back out, take the reset as Cart will be slowly pushed forward. And now it might be on the back of Yoshi here to make this happen. Octo has a great defensive tool, has less than 4 meters on the board. He's going to go in and force everybody to go around. Tobacco Bud being taken care of solo. Matt's going to get the point flipped over. Takes everything they've got, but you have to do it. Astro gets one on the way out. Is a minute and a half on the board here for EMC Mana.
May not have been the flashiest overclock, but allowed such great staging forward to push in and basically force Mio out to the point where Yoshi could get into that great position in the corner to make sure Mio does not have an angle, and then they ended up behind 2 Pack-a-Punch as they were grasping, which meant the barrage still did the damage and still took them out. Now the high ground is going to be so important for both teams to play for here, and you already see Mana rotating around for it.
Yeah, trying to look for that push right there. Not going to find it. Nice push back onto Phantom. Phantom more than happy to still be alive as Churro might be scared as Yoshi of all people gets taken out. And now it's a weird scenario because now you are pretty much screwed you're at. You got to try to run and get out of there. Arnie sitting super low in health. Still has double support to keep them alive as the Back Punch just has to still care their life, play safely. And Mio definitely needs to do so as well.
No one can hide from
Window,
my
sorry,
sight.
walls comes up, and you see them positioning, but no one's going to be peeking around the corner like that. Octo finds Chorio, and Mio finds the trade onto Blame there. Does have the grapple hook. It's okay. That was intentional.
Oh no! From behind, this could be deadly. Arnie though has helped get rid of one. Eventually, Yoshi can be taken care of after trading out. With Arnie being down, that is done and over with. And unfortunately, with it just being blamed yet, I don't think they can get back in time. So that looks like that's going to be the extend. Nice little 1v1 to end it. Unfortunately, 1v1 is going to find no true winner, as eventually going to come to an end. But it is right around that very last corner. That's very reasonable distance to take this one away, especially when the amount of times, Gio, we have seen teams be held on that first or second points more often than not.
Exactly. I mean, Total. Sorry, I keep calling him Total Recall. I just love the movie. What can I say? I'm a big Arnold fan. Zero Recall almost got held at that corner. Almost held Mana at that corner. It's well within reason that Mana would be able to do the same. And now the question is, you know, how do we do that? Because Mio was so strong on the Widowmaker on defense here. Is that something that one of our DPS have in the bank? Probably you're going to want to stay towards what they want to play. Now, Pharah on the defense here, that corner that was an issue on attack, now a boon on the defense. They can use that so well to choose their moments to put in the pressure and then follow up with it. So they do have something here, but of course if Mio starts clicking heads from that position in the back of the map, then there's going to be an issue.
Yeah, big issue indeed. Still a very long distance to go, but Zero Recall could get them set up in a brilliant position if they manage to get through this first point very quickly. Give yourself a lot of time, unlike what EMC Mana was able to do, but they found their way there towards the end regardless. As Mio back over on the Widowmaker, I think it's the correct choice. Yoshi being over on the Pharah, I think is still quite the risk. I think we're going to find out really quickly whether or not it's going to stick.
Oh, looking for it. Oh, yeah, that was close. That was calculated as well. There was no panicked flick. That was just controlled tracking and then an adjustment there. Mio very trained on this Widowmaker, and it's only a matter of time before one of these heads comes clean off.
Yeah, that is some precise clicking right there, and it's already caused everybody from EMC have to back around that very first corner. You never want to give it up that easily, that quickly, but a lot of teams are forced to do so in these scenarios. Back punch, taking in all that nice, delicious health. Going to be able to keep sustaining this corner for a pretty long time as Octo is being forced around. And so far, I mean, Zero Recall doing a phenomenal job of controlling the area.
Yeah, Big Rock here actually just about misses it, forces the MO anyway. And without Arnie, yeah, this is just going to be quite devastating. You don't have the MO Weaver, and that's just going to start to clean it up.
Yeah, Mio is just getting click after click. Nice little rock as eventually their Octo goes in, and that's going to be a big old mistake right there. Doesn't even get anybody out of it. That might be something you're going to want for later. It's a good stall, and they're doing great at stalling this out. Unfortunately, it is inevitably going to come through. That means Arnie is going to get bad spawns, which means they can't really play up that far.
And now it's a tough spot because there's 5 minutes on the board moving into second point, and so many ultimates here for Zero Recall, and the Mana are now thinking to themselves, no, where do we want to hold this? We want to hold this on point 2, but we only have this window up against 5 ultimates here from Recall. This is a surefire win from Recall. They just have to level and rotate these ults correctly.
Turo wants to have another excellent clip on display and might just be having it. Has already gotten rid of 2, trying to break through and get a 3rd. Eventually can be forced back as Arnie is going to expend the ult. And my goodness, this is just Turo's world, and we are living in it. Trying to find the rock. Mio goes down as a result, but eventually Cleanup comes through, but there should be time for a potential retouch.
You can hear the Doomslayer music playing in the background right now. Chario is on demon time, god mode perhaps, and you still as a team have Flux, you have Window, and there's no touch there because of the timing of those deaths. Now you're rolling into third with the time bank of 5 minutes 20. Both DPS ults are going to be ready for mana, so this fight is going to be tough to push into even with this Flux.
Extremely tough here, and now 5 minutes. This is going to take a lot here. Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to take a potential miracle as it only takes 2 real wins here from Zero Recall to get through, and they may be looking at their first one already with Yoshi down, trying to make the fire work, and it is just not doing anything into Turo and Mio, who are doing everything in their power to make the life a living nightmare. As Bagmunch still holding onto the high ground. Ozzy is going daring here, trying to pull it off. They're actually going to miss out on that accretion, managing to get 1, managing to get a 2nd, and now we start stemming the bleeding a little bit.
Yeah, and very leveled as well. Just the overclock used. You still have the barrage. You've built your support ults up as well. So brilliant from Ozzy to kind of level the playing field. But Recall, they're coming up to 2 very good rotations ults. That's that nano overclock, and they still have the Flux to push in with.
100%. 4 minutes now back on the board. Flux is massive. Meme could also just really push around this corner with their own Ant Matrix. The Yoshi has to play a little bit carefully. They're going to go in the corner. They're basically going to try to solo, but the shield comes out, and now they're separated away. Bagmunch still ends up going down. Going to push everybody back. You don't necessarily need to find everybody else. You just got to sustain, get everything back in line as Arnie about to have their own Terror Surge around the corner.
Yeah, very well positioned by Arnie to kind of force Bagmunch into that position. And there's this kind of mind game happening right now where Tupac does not want to Flux when that Javelin throw is available. So they're really trying to have that Javelin throw come out. That's what's delaying this attack so long, and Arnie's doing such a good job at holding that cooldown.
Yeah, doing a great job of it. Arnie eventually going to go in. A lot of people in there, but no one found out. And unfortunately, Turo is looking for another clip. Has already gotten rid of 3. And now everyone just got to run for the hills. Turo's gotten rid of 4. It's just Octo hanging around up top. Should be able to get out, but now only 1 fight away from Zero Recall, making a match point.
Good God, I could watch these overclocks all day, every day, and coming around that final corner there, they're going to lose their Wu Yang to Mio, who has the Bob as well, and such a crucial moment of this match as well. They can just fire that down the middle, great, create an off angle, in that final push.
Yep, now got to stay on the cart as less than a meter left means there's no room for error. Arnie needs to get every bit of healing whatsoever. Yoshi is going to have to come up big here as Ozzy has very little left to work with. Flux in the air, going to pull them off the point. No one can respond. And yeah, lost out on the ult again. Unfortunate scenario as Zero Recall takes that one away. EMC Mana back to the drawing board as Zero Recall just made that attack drone and Churro had the map of all time. Holy moly.
Oh my god, just clip after clip, and here's the 5k here. The amount of damage coming out here, I mean, my god. I mean, this is exactly what we were starting to see what would happen back and forth, right? Now it's Zero Recall who gets a win, and if the pattern continues, it will be Mana next, and I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Mana played really well in that third point, because they were up against 5-minute time bank. They played that choke so well, particularly Arnie, and how they utilised their cooldown management. It basically kind of put 2-pack in a position where they were just kind of there, really hoping that a cooldown would be used. It never came out, and my god, the DPS on both sides of this fight are just an absolute treat to watch, and we are barreling towards a 5-map banger, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a big possibility, but now choices are becoming a little bit more limited for EMC Mana, both in the map department and I think in the hero department in some cases as well, as we just have a hybrid and push remaining over here. But we'll get to that map momentarily, but ban-wise, just coming out the gate here, let's be honest, I think they need to take that Sojourn out back and just get it out right now. I think Churro had way too much momentum, and I think it would be way too dangerous to let them still be on that hero. And if you're so worried about it for map 5, you could get rid of the Ana as well and get rid of that combo entirely too. So I think you've got great options if they let you do it, that is.
Yeah, it's definitely something you could think about. Obviously, you take the option away from Ozzy, who obviously didn't get as much done, but you know, up against Chorio, who was on straight up demon time. That was absolute peak play there. Every time Overclock was ready, it was just complete devastation. War of the Worlds. But yeah, with push and hybrid being the possibilities that we go to, you'll have to remind me, I'm a bit outdated. Control only comes into play if it's a tiebreaker, is that correct? Or when can they pick control again?
So control can be picked again once all of the other modes have been played. So essentially, that's what it would be. Yes. So when we eventually get down, let's say if we go over to push here, no matter what, map 5 is going to have to be a hybrid map. So every mode has to be played. So we'll see what the case is going to be. If it's just a map 5, that means we will see both modes. And it's really a question for EMC Mana whether or not you can play this 2 different ways. It's like, all right, let's play into the bans we want more and go to a map where we feel like it can play into that. Or you go for like, hey, we prefer this map right here, and maybe we think we can win this map based on what we can do, what we know, and save that really important ban for map 5. But both are inherently very risky, and neither is technically a correct or a wrong choice, honestly. You won't know. It's you know, it's hindsight. It's 20/20 vision once you're in there.
Exactly, and we're getting deep into this one, and obviously these teams will be used to scrimming, but when it comes to like the competition, there's always something of the, you know, not to spend all your energy early. We don't talk about this one often when it comes to esport, because I mean, at the end of the day, you're sitting at your desk, but it is something, right? It's the mental energy there. But these teams, I don't think will have that issue. They've been going full throttle since the very beginning, and I doubt that's going to change. If anything, it's going to get even better from here on out. But yeah, I think ultimately the map choice just worked perfectly to what Recall wanted, right? I mean, they knew that they had that Sigma up their sleeve, and it just allowed their DPS to get so much done. Now you're wanting to avoid going to a map that's going to help that Sigma. So in terms of the hybrid maps, there's a potential of, do we pick hybrid now and pick something that's maybe a little bit less Sigma orientated, so that if we, you know, end up going to the next map type, they don't get the choice of picking that hybrid. Perhaps that's an opportunity. Looking at the map pool, I mean, King's Row would be the best choice if that's the strategy. And obviously that plays right into Orisa as well.
Yeah, and you seem to be able to predict the future, Gio, because we are indeed headed over to King's Row, which I think is still going to play pretty heavily into the Sigma if they want to keep running that route. But this is where I think the bans are really going to come into play here. And I think the problem is I think Sojourn is a little bit stronger on a map type like Push compared to a map like King's Row. I think both find effectiveness, but this is where we're going to find out right here and now from Mana which they fear more. Do we fear the Sigma more? Do we fear that Sojourn more? Or maybe even the Ana? So I'm curious what the choice is going to be. I'm already pretty heavily in favor of it being the Sojourn, but you also got to consider the long-term ramifications of allowing that Sojourn to be in effect for map 5.
Yeah, it's a fair question. You know, do we save it? Because you're at match point anyway, so like, do you want to be saving a ban? But also you do still want to have a strategy in mind and have a plan and plan to get to that map type. And it's gonna be Mana banning out Sojourn. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. You can't really say much. So you've already said everything we needed to do. All we needed to say is Choreo, and that's the explanation of why Sojourn is not getting played.
Yeah, and now Wuyong being taken out in exchange, which don't blame the scenario. I think they were doing a pretty good job over on the side of EMC Mana on that Wuyong. So make them try to change it around a little bit, see if they can get them a little bit uncomfortable, because we know a lot of these supports have had to put in the work and play a lot of Wuyong, as we've been in the hero pool for a couple weeks now. So we'll see what the scenario is going to be, but I agree with both picks overall, especially the Sojourn ban. You're still going to have to deal with potential Sigma and Ana. So the question is, what is going to be the replacement DPS? I think there are still some really good options on display. Tracer is available. We saw a little bit of that Ashe earlier as well. I think Ashe can have a level of effectiveness as well, and that Bob is a great stall tool, whether for engagements or whether just to throw it onto the cart. So I think there's still a lot of good elements present for them.
Yep, there's the argument for Cass and doing we saw Cass Tracer that was on Samoa. Obviously on King's Row, you have those ways of staging that Tracer on the attack into that kind of back mega area on point 1, and you can kind of stage further onto the high ground and basically just kind of like evolve your positioning from there. So Tracer, you know, definitely something that could come out. Another thing that's coming out is substitution. Jigsaw coming in for it was Phantom, and yeah, Jigsaw probably looking to be playing potentially that Lucio then. In terms of the additional information we have on the player, it just says new. Is it new to the team? Is it new to Overwatch? I mean, if they're new to Overwatch and they're GM, that's impressive. So newer to the team, maybe still getting used to kind of settling in team, like in the team comms, which obviously very important for a support player to do, but they're getting subbed in here for King's Row, where it is match point. Remember, Zero Recall have the chance to end it here and now, but Mana have something to say about that because they want to win at the end of the day. They want to equalize here and take it to map 5.
Exactly, it's what you want to do, and that's what we all want to see. Of course, as you know what Zero Recall is going to be coming out on. Of course, they're on the defense first and foremost. Pack a Punch looks like they're going to be over on the Zarya, which this is a almost like a death ball, essentially, is what this is. With the Reaper, the Lucio hanging around in there. With EMC Mana, they're they're hanging around. They're doing things. They're thinking through their options. I think eventually they're going to swap, but Ozzy is probably going to look for the quick shot before they go over to a different character.
Yeah, and the Zarya does seem quite pointed, right? It's like, okay, we know you're going Orisa. We know why you picked King's Row, because you want to play the Orisa. It's a strong map for Orisa. I'm going to bring out the Zarya. The question is this actually a back pocket pick that we're going to see good bubble management out of, or is this kind of like a Hail Mary?
Toriel getting a pick really early on. EMC Mana just gonna have to hang around, get their 5th back into the fight, just re-engage any moment here. As honestly, this is a scenario where Yoshi should be trying to kind of force out as much as you can from Pack-a-Punch, because obviously they're gonna be deadly, but you know, gotta do it eventually.
Yeah, this TP from the Reaper is also something that can really threaten those off angles. We saw Yoshi get caught out with it before, and that's the gold used by Orisa.
Yep, and now Ozzy and Octo having a good old time of it right now, and now everyone should be looking at Pack-a-Punch right now. There's no bubbles left, no health left either, as EMC Mana, job is basically done. You're gonna see, you know, Trail get out of there, but EMC Mana do seem to have this locked in place. Let's look at that first point ready to go.
The thing is, right, when you play a Death Ball, harder to control those flank routes. Therefore, Ozzy on the Tracer can find a very good route to annoy and displace the backline, and in this instance, getting picks, and that's something that Mana could continue to utilize. Arnie coming up to that Terra Surge, which means they can be, you know, very aggressive, get that extra health, plus with that Kitsune Rush as well. They have a very good spread of ultimates that you can use to continue the momentum here on the Streets phase.
100%. Plenty of time to work with. You got a good rush. As you're going to see the TP up on top, and Yoshi just gets annihilated going up there. So now, momentum's going to slow down a little bit. Still making some progress, but now Pack-a-Punch can move in. Has plenty of damage to work with. Is going to be able to keep running people down, and Arnie just has to kind of keep playing back, playing safe. Got to survive this fight. Unfortunately, is going in deep and is going to try to go for this, pulling the bodies in. Looks like everybody going to survive except for Mio, of all people, gets caught out, and now Zero Recall on the back foot as Arnie is taken down person after person. Unfortunately, Pack-a-Punch is going to lose all that charge momentarily.
Yeah, Terra Surge, they got the elimination, pulled out the Immortality Field, it did what it needed to do, and you didn't even have to utilize any of the support ultimates. You're coming up to the sound barrier as well. Mei needs to use Immortality Field just to stay alive in that push, which means in this next fight, very important tool off the board, and it's going to have to be replaced with that support of the window to get that healing out to justify it. But the Graviton Surge ready to be pulled also soon by 2 Pack-a-Punch, so you have to be ready for it on the set of Mana.
Yep, I like the aggression here right out the gate from both squads, as someone's got to stay on that point willingly. One has already gotten taken care of. Only 1.5 meters to go. Unfortunately, their tank is ready to bite the dust. Sitting literally on 1 health, is being kept alive as Beat has to be expended. We're going to see on the other side as Octo going to get it right here. Has a barrage ready to go. A lot of heat below is unfortunately going to be bullied away. Yoshi gets rid of one, able to get rid of another as they're eventually going to push through. Both teams investing heavily, but EMC Mana coming up big time.
Yeah, Mana win the fight. They used more ultimates than they probably wanted to, purely because Mei did such a good job at keeping 2 Pack-a-Punch alive for enough time for the sound barrier to get used and to extend that fight, where you needed to invest a barrage, you needed to come up with the pulse bomb, and now Yoshi's gonna have so much to play with. These 2 rooftops, that's why 2 Pack-a-Punches win the hazard.
Yeah, and fortunately, no momentum from there. Arnie also not going to find anything with their own ult, so a bit of a nothing burger trade, but you get momentum that we're being out of the fight, and now 1 fight potentially left to go. You got a Kitsune Rush around the corner. No Immortality Field sitting by left either, but Yoshi going down is probably going to stall a ton of momentum as hoping to have a flat moment right now is Corral, and apparently they're going to have it. Ozzy taken care of. Reset in full effect as Arnie is eventually potentially going to drop down. Unfortunately, it's taken out beforehand, as that's going to be a reset momentum as you're going to see them take another swap.
Yeah, straight up, I have a new favorite player in EU. Like the aura of going Widow, using it to help turn the fight and just swapping back. My god, very few GOATs in Overwatch have been able to do that, and Chorio just entered that list. Barrier, so window up, is going to be able to turn that barrier down, which has been used fairly early here as they entered this fight.
Yeah, 100%. Lot being expended, but again, losing somebody early on. Hoping for the Deadeye from behind. Someone still has to go and touch the point. Eventually, they will. Less than a minute remaining, but it's going to be enough to work with right now. Is Immortality Field being taken care of? Yoshi got rid of one. Hanging around on the point is the Hazards. Pack-a-Punch, though, has gotten rid of another. And hanging on the back line this entire time has been Mio, and eventually the necessary shots have been taken as Octo has to go run for the hills as they will get out alive.
Yeah, brilliant flank there from Mio, knowing that the at least the High Noon would force something, actually did force a lot more than just abilities, and now they're in a still decent place, but 2 minutes to push the point just that little bit further. It's about how Mana kind of develop past this corner and keep Yoshi in the great position on these rooftops to be able to put in the pressure.
Yeah, 100%. Mio getting pushed back hard. Beat going to come alive, keep them going in the fight. 1 shot, 2 shot. Help to take care of Octo as we're still hanging around the point. Arnie could be the deal breaker though for the squad. 90% plus over towards that Terra Surge, hoping to stay alive, but Tobacco Punch has their own weapon sitting on by. Gotta wonder whether or not the downpour is going to be activated within this engagement. In fact, it's going to be going down. Yoshi and Ozzy both caught out, as all I can do on the point right now for Arnie is eventually just, you have to take the L here. Take the reset, go through. The bright side is you held on to most of your ultimates, and you're going to be going in with a ton for the next fight.
Yeah, they're doing good, Zero Recall, of letting Mana come in a little bit, then utilizing the movement that they have, especially with the Hazard, to be able to manipulate the fight. Yoshi isn't quite getting into the positions that they want to, especially with Mio just being down their throats with that Peacemaker. But Mana have so many ultimates to utilize. Both support ultimates come into it, but Yoshi's went down. What's happening?
I think Octo got slashed and fell down off the side. I think that's what happened. I'm so certain that's what happened. I'm gonna pull up the replay code later on after this game is done, but I'm pretty sure that is an Ajax though, ladies and gentlemen. They got knocked away. That is so unfortunate.
That is rough, but they still have a support ultimate, right? That's what you have to go with here. They've swapped onto the Juno, and they'll have that speed ring to be able to enter the fight, and it means that they still have a lot of healing. Also means with that hit scan they can kind of shoot down, especially Jigsaw, who's been quite aggressive as well as the Lucy.
Yeah, and now no real time remaining, and Arnie is sitting at literally nothing. It's not going to be kept up, and they had all the time in the world, and unfortunately, it still wasn't enough. Ozzy, last person alive, dying on the point, and nobody is going to get back in time. You have Arnie trying to go out on the ball, but unfortunately, there's just too many boobs, too many bodies in front, and what should have potentially been a big pool of time sitting by for EMC Mana is now a potential death sentence if Zero Recall can make it there.
Yeah, not finishing the map, you know, not great, but here is the silver lining. You're a team that is playing a lot of Pharah, and you're on King's Row, which means you've got a lot of space to utilize on the first point, but even if it gets into Streets phase, that kind of back roof above where the Mega is so good for a Pharah to play around. You see a lot of great Pharahs utilize that to get into back lines, get direct onto a squishy, force out something like an Immortality Field or something, and then really kind of like turn that fight around by just forcing out those resources. And just looking at the scoreboard here, which I'm so glad we finally have these, you can see that Mio is just causing a storm, going 19-2 there, and Yoshi has got to be cursing Mio, because it just means that deadly hit scan is just forcing him into bad positions, and it looks like Chorio's the one that's going to be starting on the Widowmaker, and definitely hide. I mean, at this point it's tradition, right? If you don't start on Widow in King's Row, you're kind of going against the Overwatch rules, the Magna Carta, so you have to at least start on it.
Yeah, but this was a big problem originally for Yoshi. Right now, Trio taking their time, waiting for somebody to be more aggressive, but people are still shooting up there, and nobody willing to go around the corner. You see, obviously, Arnold going to take a headshot or two, but for the time being, shouldn't realistically get anything out of this.
Arnie can afford a headshot or two is where things get a bit risky. Just about missed Aussie there, who just had that kind of movement there to be able to stay out of it. But the Immortality Field used by Mei means that as they develop on this further high ground, they have to be careful of not taking fights because they don't have that backup solution available.
Yeah, you see everybody making it across safely. Probably just trying to flip the map in its own way. You're going to see them try to hunt down in a weird place to be, I gotta say. Octo, not where I would have chosen, but still hanging alive, still around to pack a punches in a weird area, eventually be taken out, but Octo eventually forced to get hit with that trade. And for the top rope is Jigsaw Man taking care of Yoshi. The trades are definitely unique in their own right, as Mei gonna be forced to hit over on their own abilities to try to survive, eventually taken out. But this has been so chaotic, and Zero Recall spawns are way closer.
Ozzy played that quite well, actually.
Oh.
Neo's just flying and taking out Yoshi. Gets traded though immediately by Octo. And now the hazard is on point, but you're starting to get some bodies back. Shoryu takes out Ozzy. It has been a trade though, because Jigsaw goes down.
This is so crazy. Arnie still hanging around. Has no cooldowns left, though. Eventually gets hit with the cleanse. Pulse Bomb gonna miss out as 2 ticks are on the board. Close to having something is Arnie. Gonna have that Terror Surge now ready to go. Octo being taken care of. It's gonna have to be massive if Arnie's gonna pull this one back. Gonna potentially catch one, but unfortunately not able to get anything. And eventually the War of Attrition goes the way of Zero Recall. 4.5 minutes on the clock, and EMC Man without their tank cannot hold the archway.
The timing by Mei, it was close, but it was well timed, because they definitely didn't want to make sure I got taken down before they saved their support. Look at them already positioning on this map. They know they don't want Yoshi to just have this stage for free, especially that they know this barrage is coming online. Shoryu on a big off angle there, just trying to not let the opposing tracer of Ozzy get into this sideline for free, but Octo goes there and helps out their own tracer.
Yeah, 100%. 4 minutes on that board as well, as Octo and Ozzy just picking up where they left off, I guess, as eventually Zero Recall forced to back out. Mei gonna be able to hang alive for a little while longer, eventually gonna be taken out though by Octo. And now EMC Mana able to hold onto the archway, and they have a lot of brilliant tools to do so for quite some time.
Yeah, Choriel found himself in a 1v2 situation. When your Lucio has to be on point, that's the unfortunate situation on a payload objective. When you have that Tracer Lucio duo, Yoshi taking high damage, but immediately takes down Jigsaw.
Yeah, Yoshi eventually gets rid of themselves. Bit of a unique scenario, and now that's going to force everybody to back out, take the reset. Zero Recall cannot advance in the scenario. Mio has to hide away all on the corner, and honestly, this is buying time for Yoshi to be able to get back into the fight.
It is, but they're not back yet, and they're pushing through with this pulse bomb. There's the downpour, but the umbrellas come up with the sound barrier.
Yeah, and Octo taken down, already not far behind, and Yoshi might as well turn right back around, and they're sent back to the spawn room. And, you know, bright side at the end of the day, you managed to get 3 ults out of Zero Recall, but Ozzy is still running, and they might not get out. They have to recall back away, gonna get back through, and they don't get healed in time.
The melee finish there. I mean, Tracer of all people is getting back fast, right? You still have Yoshi to try and utilize this barrage, but you have to get through this position first, and you can see 2 Pack-a-Punches just sitting on this catwalk, not letting Yoshi develop on this flank.
100%. Now someone's gonna have to eventually touch Arnie. The likely target, going to be able to go on to that point as Yoshi is just waiting for the opportunity. A nice little hello hi there for Choreo as they're going to move through. Yoshi in a really awkward spot there with that barrage, but it's going to somewhat pay off as Choreo taking care of Ozzy wins the 1v1, but Ozzy isn't going to be hanging around for very long. Seeing extremely though is to pack a punch, sitting on literally nothingness as eventually Mei is become the target, trying to hang it around as there's a literal meter left away. As supports are trying to pull this one back, but unfortunately, if they get hunted down, this fight is going to be over. And unfortunately for Jigsaw, man, they're actually still alive back there. Pulse bomb
stagger. Oh, yeah, okay. Pulse bomb used for enough, but that is going to be very good for the side of Mana. And Yoshi got the damage done with their barrage, but they saw the window was up, so they actually used that perk ability to fly up and kind of avoid the damage from the window. And the damage they'd done to 2 Pack-a-Punch was already enough. Now, with 1 minute remaining, Zero Recall do want to be careful. They're pushing into a situation where the Kitsune Rush is ready, sound barrier's coming up, they aren't quite at theirs, and they're not looking so hot in terms of ultimates, so they either want to take a quick fight, get the ultimates out, or very slowly build up their own sound barrier to mirror.
I think the choice has made itself, though. Gio, this is get out of dodge. Mio also investing, doesn't find anything as they are in a very awkward spot. Gonna take the L here now, 40% on the board. We're entering final fight territory as Mei, weird position. You can't give your life for that though, Octo, but it's gonna work out brilliantly as Furio can be able to get out of there as we set up for final fight as Mio is gonna go and swap to the far now.
Okay, monkey see, monkey do. Let's see if Mio has in their arsenal. Mana have played this so well, by the way. The Sound Barrier's still there. They've got the Terror Surge also, and in a position where people are going to have to be touching that point soon. They're going to have to be in that Terror Surge when it happens. This is a very good position.
Yeah, but already Octo has got on the board. Beat online, and it might be a victor one. Jigsaw hits this, but not in time to keep the tank up. They're getting pushed back and forth all around EMC Mana. They found the adjustment. They made it work with a brilliant defense here on second point, and all you can do if you're Zero Recall is keep staggering on to the point, but there's no one else to do it, so we will be heading to a map number 5, EMC Mana taking away Kings Row, as it's all going to come down to push.
Street space there from Mana. They played that to a T, and their ult rotations in the end is what won them that one. Where that Kitsune rush came out, but they didn't rest on their laurels. They kept pressing the issue. They saw that the members of Zero Recall weren't quite fully backing up. They got a few stagger picks that completely threw that last fight, forcing 2 Pack-a-Punch to touch in a bit of a position where they probably wouldn't have done so if they had a little bit more time to get a better touch on it. And basically Mana just set himself up for a nice equalization. We are going to match point, Hunter.
It's going to be beautiful. Obviously, it's going to have to be pushed, so options are extremely limited. And the ball is essentially in Zero Recall's courts here for the bans all around as well. You could protect something here if you wanted to as well, which I think this might be what they lean to. But whether or not that's going to be the case is something we're going to find out shortly here, because we're going to be heading to one final break before we go into this final matchup. So when we come back, we will have the conclusion of this Map 5 matchup between Zero Recall and EMC Mana. See you shortly.
Got lots of love. Got lots of love. Lots of love. Love. Got 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 lots of love. Love.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the mountaintop of this match. It has been a back and forth exchange here in the European region. Both teams rallying for their first win of the season, bouncing back from their starting games. And both these teams, well, neither of them want to lose, ladies and gentlemen, but one of them ultimately is going to have to fall for the case of the other, as we got one final map left to decide who's going to take away this EU GM game. And at the end of the day, it feels like it could really go either way, Joe. Zero Recall started out on a pretty strong foot. I found so much momentum in the DPS department, but EMC Mana, credit to them, their bans have been nearly perfect so far throughout the series, making ton of utility from them here. But now some of the strongest bans are no longer in effect for this final map.
Yeah, the Sojourn is out of the gate, is released into the field, and as we go towards a push map, that is where Sojourn can get a lot of damage done. But of course, there are still bans to be chosen here. Mana still has a chance to continue to pick and target what Zero has been liking to play. But my God, it has been back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. These teams have no quit in them. But now it's time to break the pattern. Because if the pattern continues, Zero Recall will win. Because it's been back and forth, right? Zero Recall would win this map if the pattern continues. Mana need to be the pattern breakers. But with push, there's not a whole lot choice, right? Colosseum is where we're going to be going to here, and this plays into a lot of high ground setups, long sightline setups, and of course we know that there's some DPS players on Zero that very much like that setup.
Yeah, 100%. This is one of those maps where the setup that it is, this might come back down to an Aussie, situation of having to go and take down Choreo. It's a scenario where that's like what it's been throughout the series is, hey, who's popping off better? Is this one popping off better? Tends to go their way. It's been the trend. Everyone has been very consistent overall, but it's been those two that I feel like they have really swayed one way or the other. I think Neo, in their own right, obviously has been doing a lot as well. Same has to be said for Yoshi. But now, Final Ban's going to be in effect. Zero Recall have the first selection here, and I've already really gone after the tank category, but now it's a question of, do they want to protect their supports, specifically the Ana, or is there another DPS that they're afraid of here?
Well, they have some choices. I mean, I think, obviously, one particular ban hasn't happened.
Whoa.
And okay. It won't happen. A little bit confused on the GUI, but it looks like Ana is the ban here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I see. Both went through at once, so we'll look at it real quick. So far ban.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah. That is a target ban onto Yoshi, with that, and then EMC Mana getting rid of the Ana, which I think is the right call. It's going to limit what the soldier can do with that combo. So I think both teams making brilliant decisions here.
Yeah, the Ana nanoing the overclock, devastating in circuit. That's now gone. And of course, Yoshi being very much targeted. And now Yoshi's going to be pushed into position where, like, all right, let's see what else you got. It's been a long journey to get to this point, ban-wise. Zero Recall starting the war of targeting the particular tank that Mana would like to, and maybe thinking back, was Samoa the best choice to bring out the Orisa ban, or could that have been used in another map? Now this is where you look back and think, did we ban things at the correct time? Well, leaving this Farah ban to the very last point is going to mean when it matters most, you're forcing Mana to adapt big time. And that is going to be the tough point for Mana. Zero Recall with a very good ban there.
Yeah, because that has been Yoshi's bread and butter throughout the entirety of the series so far. And it's not like Yoshi can only play the Farah. They have a good pool to work from. The problem is, when you rely on playing so heavily throughout a series in the world of Overwatch we live in now, that ban is inevitably going to hit you. If you play good on a character, you might as well look at your screen and say, I'm not playing this character next map, am I? It's just how it is. And Yoshi, as it has been a little bit inconsistent, when they peak very highly. And when you're on a map like Push, where things can get out of hand very quickly, that is a factor that you obviously don't want in there. But now the question is, this is a question of the evil I know versus the evil I don't. Now that Yoshi can't play the Pharah, what is Yoshi going to go to? Maybe somehow it ends up being more effective than the Pharah, that I think on a map like this, maybe wouldn't have gotten the value that we've seen out of ever maps previously throughout the series.
Exactly, and it also is a situation of that mental game. And I'm not going to bring this up too much because these teams have just continuously played at their best. These teams have showed no sign of degrading their energy levels or their upkeep. This is going to be where we see the absolute peak of gameplay from them, and I am oh so curious to see what is the backup for Mana. They got to have known that the Pharah ban was coming. They'll have something up their sleeve, and could that be something to mess up Recall? Because obviously Recall are now looking to bring back the Winston composition, and this works real well here.
Yeah, when I think of the Winston Cup, I look back here, I think of way back 2022, the Overwatch League Finals, where we had the Death Ball comps with the Winstons and the Reapers, finishing things up here. That's the memory that instantaneously comes to mind. Hate the Dallas Fuel, but that is besides the point. Winston's going to be in that effect. Mio is the one over on the Sojourn this time around. Yoshi trying to do a lot on the Reaper, so Pack Punch, it's got to play careful.
Classically, the Reaper does like to churn up the Winston, but Winston's at this level know how to deal with the Reaper. This isn't going to be something that really is going to upset them too much. Chorio taking a lot of damage on that side, gets melee down on that flank, and without that Tracer helping the dives, Pack Punch is going to have to back up.
Yep, and now just be able to take a little bit more space. Mei doesn't have the cooldowns quite yet, barely gets them in time to stay alive. Still getting heavily pressured. Don't blame Arnie in the slightest there, as Ozzy is going to have to recall a bit of an exposed position. Eventually going to get out of there. It's 25 meters already on the board here for EMC Mana, as Ultimate's not quite a factor yet, so Dry Fight still online.
On this high ground here, needs to be careful of the TP. Oh, hi there, says Yoshi. Gets a couple shots and doesn't take Mio out. Still on that high ground. Chorio takes an Aussie straight in.
Yeah, but high ground being taken over. Yoshi getting ready to pack a punch. Now things getting a little bit suspicious, as Mio is in a really awkward area. He's basically getting hit from both sides. They're basically giving up the fight inside of there to go take care of Mio, and they'll get rid of them. But now Pulse Bomb goes out, misses. Octo's still hanging around, sitting on low health, as you eventually have to try to get out if you're Choreo. And unfortunately for Zero Recall, that somehow didn't play into their favor.
Not quite there, and with this mirror onto Orisa, meeting Arnie Benarni right where they like to be met on the Orisa. Aussie constantly irritating this backline with the Pulse Bomb. At a certain point, someone's going to get stuck.
Yeah, that cleanse is going to be an important factor. They're committing hard onto the point. B coming up online. Double Super Ultimate's effect being used. Hoping to find something. Get a lot of damage out there. Pulse Bomb is also thrown into the abyss, but it's Mio pulling it back. A beat after the fact. And unfortunately, this is going to fall apart at the final hour, as Mio going to clean it up with 3. It's just Yoshi on the cart, just getting a little bit more stall, but importantly enough to get stopped just before that checkpoint, so forward spawns are a non-factor.
Heavy ult use from Zero Recall, but so did Mana both. Sorry, all 4 support ults utilized there. So Zero Recall, they don't have too much to kind of help them position forward. This is about getting Mio into a good spot where they can deal heavy damage. But Yoshi, of course, is gonna be looking for this Blossom, and if they can at least get one with it, then they can defend this push.
Yeah, and of all people getting taken care of from that, Arnie, weird scenario, gonna get cared for a little while longer, but it seems like the damage, again, already done. Mei and Mio last two remaining, and unfortunately, Mio is now not in this with anybody. They are alone in this pit of danger, but somehow still gets rid of Yoshi and is still hanging about.
Backline there still existing, but I mean, they very well are aware of them being there. Blossom still up here, but Two-Pack Punch has that Terra Surge, which can be used nice in that front line to get someone just pulled out of position, and Mio can follow up with it to get an overclock shot.
Yep, Yoshi has that Death Blossom ready to go. It's gonna be tough for the utility of it. You've got the boop. I mean, if you're going for that Terra Surge right there, Pack a Punch gets rid of Octo. Massive, because it means all of that extra charge you could have gotten towards that sound barrier not gonna be happening anymore. You can't speed in anymore, so Yoshi is gonna whether or not you want to go with the desperation here, but might not need to be desperation anymore. Trades go back and forth. You're stalling the card out. And more than anything, and that's perfectly fine as Mei can be forced for the cooldowns, as eventually looks like Arnie's just gonna have to go and die on this card. Yoshi gonna be of no help. Unfortunately, not getting anything with that Death Blossom, as Pulse Bomb was used as well. I think perhaps slightly unnecessary in that situation, as card can start going the other way.
Okay, and what's really great about this is that Mana had used the Wu Yang ultimate, so now both support ults ready from Zero Recall, or will be, rather. Mana only with that sound barrier, so a lot of pressure on Octo to get this online and to utilize this at the right time to kind of minimize the damage that's going to be done. Meanwhile, Mio is actually going to fall.
Ooh, that is very bad. Mei is going to be forced in there, and nothing available at the process as Ozzy gonna finish things around. It seems like Zero Recall is gonna have to back out once again. They start getting that lead a little bit closer and closer from being taken, but EMC Mana still had plenty in the tank to work with.
This is not over yet. I mean, oh, there's Charlie taking an Octo. The classic saying is push doesn't start until 3 minutes, right? And there isn't too much difference in the actual lead here, so there's plenty of time for Zero Recall to save this one.
Yeah, and Arnie is giving their life to go in and make it happen. They're gonna throw in the ult to stay alive, and I could not disagree more. And now Octo has to back out squad. Everybody has to simply get out of dodge. And now going into this fight, you are at a big disadvantage of ults.
Yeah, this is definitely the position where Zero Recall can take the lead here. They have to be very well aware does Mana that they are in a tough spot. All it takes is one well-placed Pulse Bomb from Ozzy, though, who's been very good at annoying that backline, and they can change the tides here.
Yeah, now Mio wants to try to change fates, gonna try to find the beat. It's traded out by both, so that's Mio. Has a ton of help to work with. It's found 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot. As Blame eventually being taken care of. Yoshi's still a big factor hanging around in that backline as they go for the all-out aggression. Octo trying to hang in there, but now the answer could be at their expense. Mei forced to go in, hoping to heat some bodies up, but Arnie is so desperately low. The care is dying around them, and Zero Recall are going to be able to force their way forward as the lead is all but theirs.
It was hard fought, but they have been able to garner this lead. Okay, so I obviously said it starts at 3 minutes, but this is where the real game begins, with the forward spawn being unlocked for Zero Recall, Mana finding themselves on the back foot. It's about layering these ultimates and getting into a good rhythm of them to try and continuously take back this lead.
100%. This is a super necessary fight you have to win. You cannot let this lead grow any more than it already has. Getting pushed back around as Arnie has opted to stick with this shield. As Yoshi has to move forward, cause a little bit of pressure. They're getting super low, though. It's in a weird scenario where they're simply just getting forced out and around, getting speared, getting stunned, getting just pulled. Hey, guess what? You don't get to play this game. As Octo gets a little bit of revenge there. Unfortunately, it's falling back out of their favor. As Tobacco Punch just had to back around that corner, try to get carried up a little bit. As Jigsaw's their only source of healing right now, as Arnie's trying to keep the team going. But that sustain's only going to last for so long.
Well, Sound Barrier is ready from Zero Recall, so this is something they can utilize to defend themselves. Mio, though, deadly on the sticks as they are with that overclock ready. Octo does not have that Sound Barrier up. If they get surprised by this one, it's going to be devastating for Mana.
Yeah, and now Yoshi's in a really awkward scenario with his ult. Has to be hanging around, hiding. There's not exactly a great time to use it either. It's got to be like a one-on-one or a one-on-two scenario. But Beat's going to be used aggressively, trying to get out of Jigsaw Man. But I think that was used perhaps slightly too early, as both are going to go for it. Both are going to go for something here. Everything being invested in the kitchen sink, but it's Yoshi that's going in, getting rid of Blood. Unfortunately, it is Zero Recall that's fighting back, pushing onward, support, staying alive, and Ozzy has Pulse Bomb, but doesn't have any great targets remaining. Is Mei literally sitting on 1 health, taken care of. Unfortunately, squad fallen from apart, and Ozzy can do nothing but die on this card. Zero Recall gonna get the forward spawns back.
Okay, 1 minute remaining. This is really where like Mana needs to lock in here, but they don't have much in the ult bank. They're up against a Kitsune Rush. They're up against an Overclock. This is going to really put pressure on Yoshi and Ozzy to find an elimination to really open this one up, because if they just play it purely 1-to-1, mana on mana, Zero Recall, they've got the arsenal to win it.
100%, and now that's why you want to try to make this fight really quick. Be aggressive here. You don't have anything you can reasonably build up to right now, so you need to get these ultimates out. And Mio is going to be the first one to set the trigger forward. Mio pushed back really hard, though, with that spear. Barney, he's getting burned through without that shield. They're going to be cut through like butter. But Pekka-Punch is actually the first one to go down, and now Mei is going to have to hold on to this Kitsune Rush. Arnie being kept out alive. As you're going to see Jigsaw run for the hills, the only survivor to tell the tale. And now everyone's going to be able to get back quickly because of that being alive. And Gio, it's going to come down to this.
Okay, right. This is really important here to really survive this Kitsune Rush. But of course, the touch is important because very annoyingly, that bot is going to stop. So they are not going to get the lead here. It's going to give Recall enough time to get into position.
Yep, and now it's all about surviving long enough to make these ults happen. Blame is going to use this faster than not. As they're going to be pushed back, Yoshi has already been taken care of. Nobody in effective range. Ozzy hoping to hold on. Eventually has the recall. Everybody getting close to their ultimates. You're trying to hold on for as long as humanly possible. Arnie pulled in. Pekka-Punch has been taken care of. People have to keep their bodies on the point. Beat around the corner. Octo not too far away from potentially making it happen. As Blade being picked right out of midair. As Ozzy needs to be the hero for the squad with a pulse bomb right around the corner. It lands. It hits nothing. Octo has a beat, but it might just be the stall at this point. As bodies falling one after another. Arnie has no clutch factor left, and Zero Recall wins the Map 5 series, taking their first win of the season.
My God, you really thought there was a moment there where Mana had that. They were fighting tooth and nail into 2 fights in a row where they had the disadvantage, but still Zero Recall able to win it out in the end. And what a back and forth event this has been. You play this match 10 times, it's a 50-50 split on who wins it. This is something that I want to keep my eye on in the future of this particular division, because these teams, they brought it, and I can only imagine with a little bit of VOD review, a little bit more strategizing, that it would only get better between these teams the more they face off against each other.
I mean, yeah, this was a war of attrition between these two teams at the end of the day. And ultimately, it felt like it really could have gone either way. Unfortunately, it came down to a question of that ult economy. Zero Recall just had a lot of theirs ready to go. EMC Mana, they tried to go really aggressive with the one that they got online. Unfortunately, just did not work out. But there's obviously still room to back out. It's still, or bounce back, I should say. It's still really early on in the season, only 2 games in. Obviously, it's going to have some difference for when it comes to the mid-season playoffs. Zero Recall themselves in a little bit of a better position there, as both will have opportunities to try to get some momentum going. Because even with the loss here, EMC Mana has to go into this game realizing, hey, we adjusted a lot. We learned a lot. Even though it is a loss, we have plenty to be able to learn and hopefully build off of that.
Yeah, definitely a matchup I'd like to see more of. Guys, I'm going to use my dyslexia card of the day. Apparently, choreo is the pronunciation because that is a word, choreography. My fat ass, I'll just say, saw Oreo and just went with that one. I was like, yeah, Oreo with a ch, obviously, instead of the word it is, choreo. I mean, my God, that they choreograph an amazing match there. I mean, everyone had a moment in this one. Everyone had a moment, and both these teams are just showing they've got the medal to take it. I am exhausted watching the match. I can only imagine what the players are like as well. Very incredible on both sides there.
Of course, but of course, before we end up getting heading out of here, we're gonna have a quick interview getting set up. So we're gonna take it to a break, ladies and gentlemen, so we can get that all set up. But when we come back, we will have a interview with one of the members of the winning squad of Zero Recall. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. 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 Yo. Cash and a ticket.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back one final time to the conclusion of this big-time matchup between the two amazing teams in the EU GM region. It came down to one final map, but eventually Zero Recall was able to take it away. And joining us here, one of the members of that winning roster, Chario, here to join us for this interview. And don't laugh at me. You can't laugh at me. Listen, you can't do this to me. You can't. But first of all, congratulations on a big win here today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and obviously big back and forth affair. It's a big bounce back for your squad. I mean, just talking about going into today with this back and forth game. I mean, going into this game, was there a situation where, hey, we know exactly what we want to do going into this game, or was it a scenario where going to 5 maps, obviously you had to learn and keep adjusting as it went along?
Yeah, like we knew about the Orisa like coming into it, but that's kind of all we knew. Like, we didn't know about the Farah, we didn't know about the Kiri. So apart from the Orisa, we just had to go with it as like it came on.
On that note, once you kind of realized that they were going to be playing Farah and not really swapping off of it, how did that like affect the game plan? Did that change how you tackled fights, or did you just kind of like continue as you would have?
We definitely chose like a more pokier comps. Like we chose the BAP, the Ana BAP. That's like we tried to minimize how much like work she could do. Like we changed the whole game plan around the Farah.
Yeah, it definitely worked, and the fact that you guys held off on that Farah ban until the very last map in the 5-map series was like such a twist of the knife moment where it's like, okay, yeah, don't play the Farah for the last map, let's see how you do. I gotta ask you about your performance on circuit. A 5k and a upper handful of just completely devastating overclocks there. Going into that, when you play circuit, is that to kind of play against the Farah, to be like, okay, let's go to a poke orientated map where we can play Widow and the Sojourn, or is that a map that you guys are just generally comfortable on?
Circuit is definitely our strongest map by far. Like, no matter who we scrim, no matter who we play, it's always the one we get best results on. So I feel like the Nano Sojourn was kind of just like a nice addition. But normally we just stick to our Widow, Soj, Bapilari, and Sig.
Definitely an amazing adjustment, and that's gonna be fitting very comfortably in my next caster reel. But obviously, it still went all the way to 5 maps, and that final adjustment, you guys go ahead and you get rid of the Farah. You try to make the change around. I mean, what was the confidence level going into that 5th map? Because obviously everything is on the line here. So just what was the general feeling going into that final map?
I can't talk about for all my teammates, but I can definitely say our hearts were all racing. Like, we were so locked in. We were so, like, our hearts were so fast. I can't really describe it much more.
Yeah, the adrenaline was rushing.
Yeah, definitely.
Been there before, but of course, we want to get this thing nice and wrapped up in a neat little bow. But before you go, if there's anybody you want to shout out, or anything you just want to say, we're gonna go ahead and open up the floor to you.
I want to shout out, obviously, my whole team. I want to shout out 2 players that are no longer on the team, but played a very good role. Kimchi and Aphrodite. We wouldn't be here without them. And I've got a question. Who's the MVP?
Oh, putting us on the spot.
Putting us on the spot. We never selected one, but like just complete, just throwing it out there. I would have either said you, or I mean, you would be the main one. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Gio, is there any disagreement there? I think.
No, yeah. This isn't a bias because you're in the VC with me, but definitely you, and it's definitely not me making up for the fact that I mispronounced your name the entire game. But no, after like from Circuit Royale onwards, you were just like a constant rock on the DPS, and the output you were having was definitely like consistent. Yeah, it'd be probably yourself or Mio, and the support line's definitely not getting enough love because, my god, they did so well at keeping the team alive through thick and thin. So it's between yourself and one of the support lines if you put me on the spot. But yeah, we'll say you. Officially, we're the casters. You're the MVP.
Thank you.
Of course. So, but yeah, one final time, congratulations on the big win. Obviously, y'all get a bye next week, I believe, so y'all get some time before your final game of the first stage. So best of luck with that, and hopefully we'll see you in the mid-season playoffs.
Thank you.
Take care now.
What a match. My God, we were. I think we said it during the break. We just have a tendency when we're in a cast together, when we're in the CGL booth, the games don't go short. They go long, and it just means all the more Overwatch to watch. And then I go play quick play and feel sad about my own skills because I'm nowhere near on the level. But it's made me very excited for this particular tier in CGL and EU. Obviously, not the biggest tier, only 5 teams. I think a lot of the teams from last season have kind of went on into the open tier. But like we've said, it's a tight-knit group, therefore these teams are going to be playing a lot against each other. And if this is any indication of how that's going to be, woo boy, this is going to be a good one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, 100% will. It's always exciting to see the EU region in action. But, you know, of course, at the end of the day, you know, we still have the North America region doing their thing, especially with later on tonight. They got a wonderful game of their own going on. I believe it's the open region, going against Tsunami and the Zodiacs. Gonna have a good time with that one. That is 8 p.m. EST if you live here on the East Coast like me, like the best region you could be in time-wise. But that should be a good game in its own right. I think we have definitely set the stage for it to be a good game. It's got to live up to a very high bar, a high standard. But I think they can get the job done.
100%. And shout out to Prod. I believe Happy was running Observer, and Luau, first time producing in CGL. So thank you to the Prod team. They do all the hard work. We just show up and talk over the video game that you guys like to watch. So shout out to them. And yes, definitely check out on all the socials. For other days as well. Of course, we try and cast as much as we can for the regular season, and we're only in week 2 of stage 1, which means there's plenty of story to happen. Where are those underdog stories going to come from? Where are those breakout performances going to be? And who are going to be the people working up towards that mid-season to get themselves into a great position for those playoffs?
Yeah, because we're already halfway through that first stage, and for a lot of teams, they feel like the stage is already set for them to make their appearances there. So I'm excited to see what's going to go down. But of course, for the time being, that is going to settle things. A nice, neat little bow. Should be an exciting time later tonight for that North American game. But of course, there's still plenty of games going on throughout the weekend, settling some good matches, and hopefully we'll be able to see you there. But for the time being, thank y'all so much for being here. We'd hope to see you later tonight for North America for some more CGL action.
Inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something, you know, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, you know. But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.